Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions, and I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese in France, Mickey. What? Boy, ale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah, I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neal Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Let's get started. Hey! Oh my goodness.
No, that's staying. Puberty
came in early, huh?
Hey, welcome to Superhero Speak.
I'm your host, Dave.
And John.
And JD.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I finally hit puberty, everyone. It only took 47 years.
Good Lord.
Some people are just late bloomers.
Yes. So how's everyone doing? JD, how are you?
Man, I'm pretty good. I had like I said last week with the Kickstarter, we started off kind of slow, and this week's been great. I've already exceeded my highest drawing. The Harvest Moon outdrew Sundown, so we're already like $500 up on that. I'm $100 away from hitting $3,000, which is for me the best I've ever done. And we're running till Friday afternoon, so I think I know it's the highest grossing, and I got a lot of friends that are waiting for the last second to jump on board. So I think it's realistic. We can knock on the door of $4,000 with this campaign. So I'm pretty happy with it. That's for me. That's a lot. So
yeah,
everyone is getting better. And as we speak, I'm getting ready to launch the next one in July, because that's what I'm doing now. I'm quarterly, and I'm planned up for a year.
Ah, kind of like Marvel. Wait.
Later. And I've got a recommendation for the end of the show. I didn't watch Moon Knight, but the kid wanted to watch something that is show appropriate. And I think you guys will like it.
Okay.
Cool.
I think John will like it, actually. John will like it specifically.
How about you, John? What is new with you?
Nothing new. I got the just after this whole pandemic started, I had gotten the shingles vaccine, and I had forgotten about that. And you're supposed to get a booster, so I got the booster on Thursday. So Friday and Saturday are kind of a blur. But I do remember sitting down and thinking to myself, I literally have watched all of the new spring anime, and YouTube. I reached the end of YouTube somehow. I gotta finish Moon Knight. So so I watched the rest of Moon Knight, and feeling better now, but didn't get anything done that I wanted to over the weekend, which was fun.
How does one reach the end of YouTube? What is at the end of YouTube? Is it like the end of the rainbow?
For me, the end of YouTube is basically I have exhausted all of the channels that I watch, with the exception of one, but they're hour-long episodes, and I tend to reserve those for night times and all that. But yeah, and all of the problem with YouTube and all of these streaming services now is their recommendation engines are pigeonholing everybody. So like YouTube almost has no way for you to actually explore what else. It's like Netflix. There's no way to see what else is out there, because every channel that they've created for you is specifically designed for you. Like I go onto Netflix and all I see is anime and animations and maybe some sci-fi stuff, but there's no way to discover stuff that you want to watch that you wouldn't have watched before.
Right.
You can't browse anything. So YouTube's kind of gotten to the same way. And so like all of I'm at the point now where everything that they suggest, I'm like, not interested. And but they keep giving me the same stuff, and I can't find anything new anymore. So I just, that's what reaching the end is for me. It's like, how do you break out of that? I don't know. You just get a second channel, but even then within a week, you're pigeonholed again.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I never thought about that before, but that is the problem with recommendation algorithms, is that eventually you're just going to see the same things over and over again. And
like the only thing in
Yeah.
YouTube I know of is to go to what's trending. But even I'm not interested in a lot of what's trending, you know, because my interests are geek and niche and all that.
Right.
So, but you know, that's like literally everything else you look at YouTube is governed by that freaking engine, and you can't break out of it.
Yeah, that sucks about the algorithm, man. It's the algorithm is they want to show you what they think you want, but how do you know? Like, you know, they don't get to discover anything. Like, they're so busy in telling you what they think you would like to see that they don't realize that people have interests. Sometimes they want to see something different. Like, because my YouTube is weird because it's me and my kid that are always looking at stuff.
Yeah.
So I get crazy suggestions with things, and a lot of them are appropriate. But yeah, like you said, like unless I put something into the search engine specifically, it's hard to discover something.
Yeah, like every once in a while, like a romantic comedy. I can't find a romantic comedy on Netflix anymore because that's not one of my main interests that they want to keep pushing at me. You know, it's ridiculous.
When I bought the Google View, I think it's called. It's, you know, like the Alexa, but it's Google's version, and it's got a screen on it so you can watch videos and stuff on it. I bought that for my mother. My brother ended up taking it because my mother didn't really want to use it. And when I initially set it up, I set it up with just use my account just to get it working. So every once in a while, I'll be on YouTube and
right.
he watches these train videos where they go to other countries and they go on a train and they tour the country on the train. So they'll pop up in my suggestions now, or Disney videos, like where to stay when you go to Disney. Like, I don't watch any of these. Yeah. So that's the key. Share your login with other people. Oh, wait.
I mean, it's true. That's the best way to find stuff and learn about new things is to like explore things with other people. But
well, it's the only way to get the search engine to start looking for other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Is to, and you know, but I mean, the algorithm, was it Amazon's Prime is horrible. The interface is horrible in and of itself, let alone its algorithm. And then Disney Plus is easy because you only got like 4 options. But everything else is like hardcore pushing you into this niche, and so
it's abusive.
Anyway.
It's abusive. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. So you know, but I did watch the rest of Moon Knight except for the last episode, which hasn't aired yet, right?
Right. No, that's this week coming up.
So it may be colored a little bit by a fever dream, and Moon Knight was already a fever dream, so my recollection is going to be really interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
Right, beat me to it.
After you, good sir.
I'm doing all right. I realized that I'm old.
Oh man, you know, wow, that realizing comes real quick after puberty. Apparently,
my so yesterday was my son's birthday. He turned 20. Wow. So that's first thing that makes you feel old. And then we went and celebrated at my mom's on Friday. So that was, you know, going there and everyone came over, you know, had a little bit of a party. Then Saturday, my granddaughters, again, makes me feel old, were playing in their first t-ball game. So I had to get up early for that. Then since it was my son's birthday, I had to come home. He wanted to play in a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. So it was just the local comic book shop. But like, I was like, all right, let's go. We went over and I shopped while he played and spent way too much money at the comic book shop as usual. And then my girlfriend's son goes to the Center for Performing Arts High School and Academy for Performing Arts High School in Philadelphia. And he did a painting that's being featured at, I think it's called Pier 54 downtown. It's at like an arts center downtown. So they all these kids were chosen from across the city and all their paintings were put up for display for the month. And they were doing like a whole presentation or whatever. And that was 7:00 that night. So after the tournament, had to run home, eat something real quick, then go down and do that. And by the time my head hit the pillow, I was out. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But, you know, it was a good weekend.
Cool.
Just felt old by the time it was over.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore.
Tomorrow's my wife's birthday.
Ah, is she 20?
She'll be 27.
Yeah, whatever makes her the least angry. Yes.
I love her very much. She's finally on board with the beard too. It's surprising with dinner night we were talking about it, and she said that she wants to get some like apparently there's an eyebrow type of like stuff that you can use to like stimulate your hair follicles and your eyebrows. I had no. This sounded like
What?
comic book science to me. Yeah, that's what I said. So she wants to try because I can't grow anything underneath my nose, like the bridge of my nose. There's
She
no
puts
hair.
eyebrows under your nose?
No. Well, like so some type of it could work. That's what I thought she was going with this at first. Like there's something that I can put here that's supposed to stimulate hair growth follicles. So I'm gonna try it so I can complete my beard.
But they have
weird.
You can also get those things with like the little spikes on them. That's supposed to stimulate it as well.
You guys
roll
are
it
so
over your face.
You guys are so lucky that you can grow actual beards. When mine comes in, it looks like teenage scruff. No matter how much hair I have.
Debatable as an actual beard. Let's be frank.
The mustache and the goatee, that's all I can grow. Nothing grows here. I don't. Well, it does, but it's patchy. So
Mine's super patchy, but it's actually starting to work. Like I actually think I look better with this now than I did without it. So we're gonna stick with this. We're gonna ride this look for the next few years and see how it treats me.
Yeah.
I think it looks fine.
The wife's on. I mean, getting the wife on board was the big key because I looked at it the other day and I was like, "Oh my god, I have a beard." I just been lazy and figured I would stubble it and take care of it eventually. And we had our Greco State tournament yesterday, and I washed my face and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, "Oh, you have a beard, sir."
So I wanted to say something. The picture of you on Facebook at a match, and you're like bent over and you got this intense look on your face.
I was coaching. I get very intense.
And of course the mustache and the goatee. And I'm like, that's evil, JD. And then you had an interview on a podcast, and they used that picture for the interview.
I've done so many podcasts in the last week, like to advertise or to like promote this campaign. I am tired of podcasting. Like I can announce this here. This hasn't been announced yet, but like I told you guys, there's this wrestling podcast to listen to. It's 6 hours long every week.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me to be on. By the time our show hits, they'll have made the announcement, so that's okay. So I'm actually going to sit in on their pod the next couple of days, and it's going to be a 2-day process, and it's going to be a thing.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'm excited. It's a bucket list. But when that's done, I might need a vacation, to be quite frank, because I have just been podcasting like a fool. But like you said, evil JD, if you ask the officials, they will all agree with that statement. Because I gave them the business yesterday. Let me tell you. So,
2 days to record a single podcast.
6 hours, brother.
I don't know.
I listen to it. It's my Monday. Like when I'm doing stuff on Mondays, I'm at the gym, I'm driving around, going to work, and I like it. It's one of my favorite podcasts. But it scares a lot of people, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can see that.
It scared me. I like it. I don't know if I can even be involved in that act and be that like attuned for that long. We'll see.
No, not every week. That's insane.
Oh, I couldn't do it every week. Just being on the show this week is going to be a task.
Yeah.
And they do a Patreon show that's just as long once a month. It's crazy.
So speaking of things that are scary, real quick, I know JD isn't watching it, but John, what did you think of this week's? And remember, there's only one episode left. So what did you think of this week's Moon Knight, and especially how it ended?
Well, I should really start smoking pot.
Legal in Illinois. I don't know about in Pennsylvania.
It's decriminalized in Philadelphia, but it's not legal.
Yeah, because we're still backwards. I watched it literally when I was having a fever dream. So yeah, that was to see the hippo just like blew my freaking mind. My brain went back to Henrietta from the New Zoo Review in the 1970s.
The amazing thing,
I'm probably the only person who remembers that.
I remember New Zoo Review, but the amazing thing is there's pictures floating around online. Like that wasn't completely CGI. There was actually a person in a costume.
That's
in a hippo costume.
That's pretty awesome, and I wouldn't put it past Disney to do that. That's yeah. Well, it makes a lot of stuff makes more sense now, but we still haven't seen it. You're okay with us talking about this, right, JD?
I'm barely paying attention.
Okay.
You sound like John.
Fair enough.
I've learned from the best.
Fair enough. So yeah, I mean, we still haven't seen a third personality yet.
No, they only alluded to it once, but yeah. And I thought we would see it in this episode since he's basically on the River Styx.
Right.
Traveling to the afterlife, split into the two personalities.
Well, they did have another sarcophagus that they didn't open.
Yes.
So I thought that might have been Khonshu, but no, it makes more sense that that would have been the third personality. They just didn't open that one. So, but now we know who the prime personality is, who owns the body, really.
Yeah.
And what a horrible upbringing. This coming from somebody who had a horrible upbringing. Yeah, I could see how that would split somebody down the middle in their brain.
Yes.
And so the ending kind of blew my mind, but I'm wondering where it's going to go from there.
I watched it. It's funny. I watched it with my girlfriend, who only watched the second episode with me. So that's all she saw was the second episode and the fifth episode. And when it was over, she just looked at me and went, Marvel's getting weird.
They are. But, actually to one of JD's points, JD, I think you were saying something about this feeling like you have to watch it in order to just keep up with Marvel, right? Like you almost feel like you have to watch these now, or
if I felt that way, I would be watching.
Okay.
I do feel like they want me to watch them. I do feel like I get it. It's the plan. It's like crossover season, right? Like when they release the crossovers every year and they want you to buy like 8 billion books and follow a long drawn out story. I feel like we've reached that zenith point with these ancillary properties, if you will. Like, and it's turning me off a bit, to be quite frank.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Like, Marvel has like a crap ton of stuff coming out, and we're going to talk about more of that later. But we're also going to talk about later how the CWDC shows have all fallen off a cliff. And that, I think that like people maybe reaching saturation with Marvel. And that's because, there's so much. But on that side, there's only a couple of movies a year, maybe. And then these TV shows, which admittedly are going and using very, very obscure properties now. But on the CW side, what they were trying to do with CW, there was no way I could keep up with 8 hours a week of CW shows just to keep up with all the different stories for when they do crossover. And the writing was getting bad too, because it was, again, CW. So, I like there's levels of saturation, I guess, that you could get.
And there's a lot of people that were just watching the crossovers. Like, they would tune in for the crossover, and then basically maybe like I was that person. I was watching Flash and only watching the crossovers for the other shows. I wasn't watching the other shows at all.
That's why they would do them. It's sweeps, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Spike those ratings around sweeps time. So it's pretty. I don't know if it's common, but I mean, it's not like that was a crazy thing to say.
No, and it's just like, it definitely was oversaturation there.
So, it's oversaturated. Like, there's only so many hours that somebody can watch it, and none of these are streaming. So it's not like you could watch them at any time. And a lot of people
aren't they on the CW app? You're talking about the
they might be on the CW app. I never really checked, but initially, like, I guess even DVRs are becoming some kind of a thing of a past now. Like, I've talked to a lot of people who don't have DVRs anymore.
I don't have one.
The problem with the CW app is they only
CW
keep them
shows.
No, the problem is they only keep the shows on there for a short window. It's not like you can watch stuff from season 2.
That makes sense.
On there. They only keep them, like, I think 8 episodes back or something like that, 6 or 8 episodes back. And it's just like, well, yeah, like it allows you to catch up if you're a couple episodes behind, but if you want to binge it over the summer, like, you can't. But a lot of them used to go on Netflix. I don't know if they're still doing that.
I think they're still going on Netflix. Although Netflix, we didn't really put in the show notes this week, but boy, is Netflix having a rough month. I can't talk today. Netflix having a rough
month.
That too. They're contracting for the first time in like a decade, right? They're losing subscribers and they're hurting. I mean, I know Dave didn't like Stranger Things, but Stranger Things 4 coming along at just the right time.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's good, so it doesn't
it's good.
But this goes back to what we've been talking about for a while. There's going to be a contraction of the streaming, the streaming apps, the companies, and Yeah, this has got to be the first solid evidence of that actually happening, right?
I think the first solid evidence happened last week too, when CNN killed CNN Plus. Which, who needed that? Like, it was the most superfluous. Like, Warner Media does a lot of dumb things, but the CNN Plus app, like creating a separate news system right outside of their CNN.
For a channel that they say has been losing viewers in the key demo for a long time. It's like, why did they think
the key demo doesn't care to watch news all the time?
Exactly.
Nobody wants to see a newscaster do a show about their house. I mean, like, what?
You might actually get more views on that than just like the constant bombardment of the 24-hour news cycle, which is quite literally maddening, right? But that lost a ton of money, and Discovery's trying to Discovery's going through and like Xing things left and right everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They did do something nice that we'll talk about later, but yeah, for like killing that, it's like the first, okay, this is dead. What's coming next? Because we're there. It's just too much, right? It's too much.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like you would have needed some of these personnel. Like, was it Anderson Cooper? Okay, he's the only person that most people know, but even his personality wouldn't be enough to keep somebody going to CNN Plus. I mean,
let alone to pay a subscription fee for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A terrible idea. I don't know what they were thinking on that one.
Well, I mean, a lot of people were saying they were in trouble because the first day they offered like a couple hours after launch, they offered half price because nobody was signing up. Yeah.
Talk about not having faith in your own product. Like, you had at least wait a couple of days for word of mouth to get around.
The launch must have been terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about like everything in these things, all about launch day. Launch day is your big day. So if it was bad, I don't know if I ever saw what the actual numbers were.
10,000 concurrent users.
Holy shit.
10,000. I mean, like at $10 a month, you're like, oh, it's not bad, but
most of the 10,000 was probably just bots.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, the total people that signed up was like 120 or 150,000, but only 10,000 people were actually using it after they signed up.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think they care if they use it. I think they would care more about, are you paying? Right. But that's being said, is like, you don't want that. You don't need that. I would dispute that 100,000 number. I think that's probably fluff.
Yeah.
If it was a quarter of that, I would be surprised. But it's dead. So, CNN Plus is dead. Long live CNN regular, I guess.
Well, it was a bad idea to begin with. It's just that Discovery came along and decided.
Right. And it also sounds like they plan to keep some of those shows and just fold them into HBO Max.
Which is what you should do. They should have a singular hub, right? Having multiple hubs is a terrible. Like, now that Discovery Plus and HBO Max do the same thing, we're gonna eventually get this, like, blob of stuff, which is essentially which should essentially be like Pluto TV, quite frankly. But like that's fine. Like, I want everything to live in the one spot where I'm actually gonna go. I like HBO Max. Like, things I like are there. I'm not gonna get rid of HBO Max. So you might as well stick, if there's stuff on HBO Max that I like, perhaps I'm more likely to check out Dr. Pimple Popper. No, I'm never gonna watch that, but it'll be there.
Well, yeah. So there goes your contraction down to, and we always thought, like, I don't think Netflix is going to die. Like, they saw this coming and they started doing their own stuff, and they have a lot of different genres of their own content now. There's a lot on my side, anime and animations and all that. So, and there's good stuff. People like the Voltron series that they had. So. Yeah. So I think they'll right themselves. HBO and Disney Plus, obviously. And after that, it's a race for fourth place. They're not going to, your Crunchyroll has already done or Funimation did what they had to do. Everybody, Funimation and Crunchyroll combined into Crunchyroll under Sony. They're done. Like, there's only a couple of other streaming services for Japanese anime, and they're all small time compared to that now. So that side's done. Everything else is going to be for the mainstream.
Well, speaking of things that are terrible and Dr. Pimple Poppers and making us shrink.
Picard, you're going to talk about Picard now?
No,
I've heard really bad things about that.
Let's talk about social media madness.
Oh, so not as bad as Picard, apparently, from what I've heard.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, he's an android now, but anyway.
No, he's not. Not anymore. He isn't.
Wait, what?
Oh, they retconned that already?
It doesn't matter.
They made Picard an android?
Apparently, they killed him at the end of season 1, but like put his consciousness into an android body.
into a positronic brain. But I think they've already fixed that. Yeah.
So much like when they transferred his consciousness into a different human being at the end of X-Men 3, once again, Patrick Stewart's been transferred into another consciousness.
Yes.
Okay. Here's all you need to know. They turned the Borg into a bunch of pussies. And this is coming from me.
That's disappointing.
Like the Borg were supposed to be this unstoppable menace that you had to think around, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had to, they've always beaten them with tactics and knowledge. Now the Borg are just, they did touchy-feely things with the Borg, and now the Borg are coming to their, it's
one of the things,
stupid.
All right, real quick. One of the things,
7 still is hot.
Mm-hmm.
She's amazing as an actress. She really is.
One of the things that Gene Roddenberry did, this is a simple little thing, is why I hate all the new Star Trek, is you notice there was no cursing in Star Trek, right? It was extremely rare. What?
You couldn't curse on TV in the 60s.
I know we know that's the practical reason he did it, but Gene Roddenberry's vision was that humanity gets to a point where they elevate above that, right? His whole thing was about hope for the future, right? We're going to be better than what we were and become better and explore the stars and be the hopeful beings in the universe and all that. So the idea is that it kind of just went out of style, right? It wasn't part of the culture anymore. But in all the new shows, they curse because, they're on streaming and they can get away with what they want. And it's that makes no sense. It wasn't that they couldn't curse. It wasn't part of the culture. And it's just yeah, no thanks.
Well, some of none of the characters are doing anything that makes sense. This new storyline they've got is bouncing back and forth into timelines, and they completely mishandle it. They've got one writer doing one show, and the writer who writes the next episode doesn't know anything about what the first writer did, and so nothing makes sense from episode to episode. It's trash. It's just trash.
Speaking of trash, we talked about Ezra Miller getting arrested again.
Ooh, nice segue.
Very good. Oh, that works.
To which Timothy Jones replied, "I heard he was arrested for a quick lay."
That's terrible.
He went to Hawaii?
He was arrested in Hawaii.
That is, yes, that's accurate. Still.
Where they give you a lay, right? No.
Yes.
Sour grapes available in finer newspapers across the country, ladies and gentlemen.
Depending on how much time he spent. I won't make that joke. It's gonna make a prison joke.
Well done, Tim. Well,
amen. This is a new follower who's at Hedgehog Manga. Hedgehog Manga. Okay, that makes sense. I love your logo. Very clever. So,
thank you.
He had nothing to do with the topic at hand, but thank you for the shout out.
We'll take it. We'll take anything.
You liked our robot head. Thanks.
8-Bit Ray from the Gorilla Brain podcast said, his check's already cleared. I don't think he cares.
True.
He can go to do indie horror creature flicks for 6-headed shark versus the human fly and be right where his acting belongs.
Can we be real for a second? I've also thought Ezra Miller was a remarkably overrated acting talent.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why everybody, I don't know anything else he's done, but he never hit me as anything
he's
special.
I think we talked about this last week. He's not even a good Barry Allen. He's
not. He's
playing him like this autistic kid, and it's just
part of that was Joss Whedon writing, but the other part is they completely changed the character of Barry Allen to begin with.
But, Snyder, he was like that too in the Snyder version, so we can't just blame that on Whedon. This is what the vision for Barry was. It's like they saw Sheldon Cooper wearing those flash shirts in those early seasons of what am I talking about? A Big Bang Theory. And we're like, yes, that is what Barry Allen should be. And that's never been Barry Allen.
Right. And I mean, when you say the stuff that Joss Whedon put in was the thing about brunch and all that. That's too awkward and stupid and all that. It's just, it's just all the writing and everything, the way that the character was. But Ezra Miller was in Eternals, right?
I don't think so.
No. What else was he in? He's I've never heard of him before all of this. And just the acting You know, I don't know why he's such a big deal. What was he in that was such a big deal that everybody was like, fawning over him until
he was the star of The Perks of Being a Wallflower, the whiniest white movie I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, and Californication. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean.
He's in the Fantastic Beasts movies too. And
just one of them, actually, I think.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, before he got the part, I mean, like, what's the biggest thing he ever did?
No, he's in both of them. Okay.
Nothing really. Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, he was in all three of them. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, but he did it after he was the Flash, right?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I'm like, The Perks of Being a Wall. Like I said, one of the whiniest movies I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, I don't see anything here where it's like, yeah, I saw that. That was an awesome movie. No. Interesting. Yeah, Californication was maybe one of the biggest things. So I don't get it. I don't get it. You know what else I don't get?
What?
The Dungeons and Dragons movie they're making.
We haven't seen it yet.
Do we know anything more about it?
Well, we did talk about it last week. We know that it's being called Honor Among Thieves. That's it. And it stars Chris Pine.
I do like Chris Pine.
But our good friend Random Randy Savage from the Gorilla Brain podcast said, it honestly depends on the writer, DM, I love that, and the players. Most of the D&D shows or podcasts I've enjoyed were run by very novice players or improv actors because it requires the characters to F up, but try really hard to be entertaining.
That's most podcasts.
Yeah, that's us every week.
Pretty much. It's our shtick.
We F up a lot. But I mean, I kind of get what he's saying. Like, you can't do Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones because there's an established story there that, like, you got to find a way to make this interesting.
Well, they
Smash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's just that, like we said before, they need a good story. There's plenty to mine there, and they'll probably go off and do their own thing because these movies are cursed.
Smash Trivia said, I think it can just needs to be as goofy and ridiculous as possible, like a good D&D campaign.
It's probably not a bad. I mean, it's a different approach. I'm sure that approach would actually piss off longtime fans, which would be entertaining for me. But I don't know if that's the right move. They should just do the animated series. John said that last week, and I was thinking about that, and he's right.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that's
or reunite the dead gentlemen and just hand them a couple of $1 million. Do you guys know who the dead gentlemen are?
Clearly not.
No.
We both had something growing out of your face.
The Dead Gentlemen did two of the funniest Dungeons and Dragons movies of all time. They're underground movies, and they are hysterical. They're also called The Gamers. But yeah, I even forgotten the name of the. Let's see, what the hell was it called? What was the game? Yeah, The Gamers, Hands of Fate. The Gamers, Darkness Rising. That's it. So it was Darkness Rising in 2008 was like one of the best. That's one of the best Dungeons and Dragons movies of all time. It was done by a bunch of guys with a video camera. It was hysterical. And they would switch between the guys playing the game and then them actually being their characters in the game. And just I mean, like what the last comment, he said, it just needs to be as goofy and ridiculous as a regular D&D. Try a thief sneaking up behind a guy at a bar and backstabbing him with a ballista. Like, that's goofy enough and stupid enough and funny enough. Like,
the fuck is a ballista?
A ballista is the big crossbow, the huge crossbows they use to destroy walls of cities.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
Yeah.
I can see that. Now that I'm picturing that in my head, I would laugh at that if I saw that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the scene was hysterical. It just escalated. It's like, first I'll steal his money. Oh, I'll steal this. I'll steal his pants. You hear the roll of the die. Damn it. Well, you made it. He takes the pants off the guy while the guy's still sitting at the bar. Then he goes to backstab another guy with the ballista. It's if you do something like that, you can take our money. Anyway, sorry, tangent. Everybody should go see, if you can find it, The Gamers, Darkness Rising by The Dead Gentlemen.
Okay. I just feel like when you started talking about that, I feel like how JD felt last week when me, you, and Don started talking about Dungeons and Dragons and in more general terms.
It's not that far hard to find it. It's all on YouTube's.
Oh.
Yeah.
With a 5-second Google search, you'll have that.
Yep. And it's well worth it. It really is.
One of the other things we talked about, Jason Momoa is slated to star in the Minecraft movie.
Oh, just put Cena and The Rock in it too and get it over with.
Which again, I asked, do people want a Minecraft movie? To which the Gorilla Brain podcast replied, a kid saw my 8-big Mega Man tattoo on my neck and said, look, mommy, he has a Minecraft tattoo. I've never been more ashamed of a generation as I was at that moment.
Yeah, 8-bit art does look a lot like, but I don't know. Real geeks can tell right off the bat the difference between 8-bit art and Minecraft stuff. But
it was a child, so
yeah, I know.
To let that one go.
They're just not bringing him up right. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Randy said, of course people want a Minecraft movie. Don't you remember all of those timeless stories in Minecraft? Like building your shelter and mining for stone to make a furnace.
Is that really what you do in this game?
Yes. And then he replied with that.
Awful.
With
highest grossing game of all time.
Leonard Hofstadter holding up a sarcasm sign.
Okay. Avatar is the highest grossing movie of all time. It still sucks.
Trust me, there's a lot more to the game than that.
I'll kick your word for it, but I cannot think of anything I'd want to do more than things I don't want to do in real life. Isn't it supposed to be escapism?
It's escapism, but it also basically gives you an entire world, which is your palette, and you can do anything you want with it.
And there are
how many games can you just break anything at all the way down to Bedrock?
And then the other part,
I can break games very easily.
Oh, yeah.
And the other part of the game too is that
I can break any game you ask me to. I could destroy it, shatter it, throw it in the trash.
The other part of the game is there's these creatures like zombies and stuff walking around that attack you. So it's also a race to build a shelter to protect yourself from them and things like that.
I am so out of touch.
It's been around for a long time too.
I know. I've heard
since 2009. Yeah.
I believe you guys. Andy's watched some videos on YouTube, and I'm out of touch. I'll be the first to admit it.
Yeah.
Modded Minecraft is also a big draw. You've got everything from magic to jetpacks to spaceships to go to other planets. Like the regular standard Minecraft, yeah, you could get bored of it after a couple of months, but then modded Minecraft, there's just, the sky's the limit. Even the sky's not the limit.
You're telling me you can have magic and wizards and spaceships and jetpacks all combined into one? You know where else you could get that? The Wolfstone Saga, currently available on Kickstarter for just 3 more. For that time you listen to this, 48 more hours left in the campaign. Jump on and get your favorite books right now.
Well done, sir.
Set me up,
well
sir.
done.
It was like volleyball.
A, B, C.
I approve of that, Spike. Yes.
All
Very
right.
good.
Well, the last social media madness, I attached the wrong link in the email, so we'll just skip on.
I'm good.
We'll say, if you want to be a part of social media madness, here's our good friend D Square to tell you more.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of social media madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast, as well as some other great content. Check the site often, because we are posting some great comic reviews, as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at @stars_geek. The Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for #GWAllStars. You will not be disappointed. Now it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
Thanks for that, Don. And don't forget to check out the Omega Level Nerd podcast, available on YouTube and wherever podcasts are available. And on that note, we'll take our first commercial break, and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, we are back and got some news to talk about. This first one just hit a couple days ago, and I kind of think we need to talk about it. Of course, this is a comic book podcast first and foremost. The one and only Neal Adams passed away at the age of 80. And for those who aren't familiar with who Neal Adams is, shame on you for listening to this podcast. But
no shame. No shame. Go learn.
Yeah. He's a very important artist. Worked for DC for many years. He worked with Denny O'Neil on a lot of books, helped bring the Joker back into the mainstream in the 70s in the comics. And aside from all the art that he did, he was instrumental in getting the creators of Superman. Oh my God, my mind just went blank. I was about to say Simon and Schuster.
Jerry Siegel and
Joe
Shuster.
And Joe Shuster. Getting them the credit and some of the money they deserved for creating the character, especially after the movies came out in the 70s and Superman exploded even more even after that. He was very instrumental in helping them and other artists get the credit that they deserve for creating these characters. So
the man was an absolute warrior for champions' rights. He was prickly to the best of the word, because he did not suffer fools. He was not a chump when it came to his work. When I say that, I mean, some people are like, though, I always want to do this, so I'll do this for less. Like, no, man, Neal Adams was a pro's pro. The biggest lesson I ever learned from Neal Adams quote was, whatever you think you're worth, double it when people ask.
Yeah.
And then be willing to settle for lower. And oftentimes you'll either get what you asked for or wind up about 25% higher than what you expect, about 50% higher than what you expected. So it's pretty impressive, man. And like I said, he was a good dude, and he worked in comics, he worked in advertising consistently his whole life, and he was fantastic. Comics world was a better place because of Neal Adams and his legacy, and it's going to be a worse place without him. But 80 years, and he had a great life and worked his whole life.
I've actually met the man and talked to him a few times. He was always personable, always willing to talk to fans. He wasn't stuck up or anything like that. I always found it fascinating that all his kids were interested in art too, and they all worked with him, and his wife was really nice. We'd come to the conventions. They would all come to the conventions together and work with him at his table. Because, of course, he had a huge table because he was Neal Adams.
Yeah.
And I got to say, it's sad. One of my biggest regrets is that we never got him on the show, because he agreed to do the show. The only issue was he's a very busy man. So how he wanted to do it was, when he was in the studio, contact him, and then he would call, we'd call him at that point. He didn't want to try to set anything up too far in advance or anything like that. So I never got around to coordinating that. Now, obviously, we'll never get that chance, but because he would have been an amazing interview, because he was such a great guy and easy to talk to. So yeah.
Sounds like he was amazing.
Yeah. And
shame.
Unfortunately, the other thing that hit home really bad is he died of the same thing my wife died. So
what did he die of? I'm not even.
Oh, he got an infection and died of sepsis. Complications from sepsis. Yeah.
Didn't realize that. My cousin died that way too.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it's one of the most common ways is you get an infection and that's it. Yep. So
where did your wife have the infection, Dave? We never really talked about it.
Oh, it was like a boil on her stomach that got infected. And she kept holding off going to the doctor, and that's the thing. She'd waited too long, and it had become septic at that point. So
my cousin had Crohn's, and she never bothered dealing with it or taking care of herself the way she was supposed to. And then she finally got talked into going to the doctor, and hours later, her body had turned septic.
The thing is, because my wife had diabetes too, if you have high blood sugar, infections eat that up. The sugar in your blood causes it to spread faster too. So
I got a puncture in my foot once, and you get where your veins start to change to red going up your limb.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that too. So yeah, that's not anything you play around with. I went right. They gave me 8 different antibiotics and and all these. I don't even remember half the stuff they gave me, because you could see it was it was halfway up my leg by the time I got to the doctor.
As soon as they realized that was going on with my wife, like they were in with like 3 different antibiotics right into her IV, and then so
it's
I had a MRSA infection in the winter of 2009, and I was in a very, very not good spot. My butt cheek. And
ooh.
Yes, I have a hairy butt. Something I'll let the audience in on. It will not be the episode title. And I got an infected hair in my butt cheek. And my brother demonstrated a move, and it was like we do it's called a chop. You chop the elbow and you drive the knee up to your opponent's butt to break them down. And it was the worst pain I'd ever felt in my life. And I stood up and punched him just on reflex. He's like, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "I don't know. That really hurt." And I went to the doctor and had a big old boil, and it was MRSA. That was not fun.
Chopping the hairy butt.
Chopping the hairy butt. Maybe that will be an episode title. I like that actually. Yes.
That's great. Staphylococcus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
MRSA, the full-on MRSA isn't necessarily staph, but it was the MRSA infection. It was in the early teens. There was a bad wrestling outbreak of it throughout the country where it was spreading everywhere.
Wow.
The state of Minnesota shut down their season for like 2 weeks that year. It was rough, man. It was rough, but I was good. I was fine. I lived. Can't donate blood, but I lived.
You're not allowed to donate blood anymore?
No, because I had MRSA. You can't donate blood.
Probably because you could still have traces of it in your blood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow.
So anyway, Neal Adams will be missed.
So when the vampires attack, you're the first one we throw at them, right?
They don't want me. They can smell. Ugh, move on.
Yeah.
Oh, you're protected.
You've got the bad taste.
So what? You have to bite us when the vampires attack?
No, I bite the vampires, baby.
Oh, this is true. Yeah.
I need to write that down.
You're a reverse zombie. Oh, now
now I'm thinking. See, now I'm cooking. No, it's a shame, Neal Adams, man. If you have a chance, the man revamped Batman, helped create Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, this is.
Even I heard that.
Him and Denny O'Neil revamped the character in the late. Everyone gives the credit to Frank Miller. They like to pretend that Adam West was the dominant form of Batman from 1966 to 1986, but that's not true. In 1969, Denny O'Neil and Neal Adams came in and did their version of Batman, which really kind of helped him get back to the roots a little bit. And Ra's al Ghul was part of that. That was part of their shtick. Denny O'Neil shepherded the character for 25, maybe 30 years, something like that. It was crazy.
They brought the Joker back and made him a menacing character. Yeah, I mean,
Joker back. I believe they brought Two-Face back as well.
Because before that, the Joker was just a fool, right?
I'm not 100% sure if he was even appearing in comics, to be honest with you.
No, he hadn't been in the comics for a long time.
Yeah, he was just from the show. Which is strange when you think about that. That would never happen today with the media crossovers and whatnot.
Oh yeah, now the Joker's it's social consciousness now.
The little known fact in the Joker's original appearance in the comics, this is back when Batman carried a gun. People don't know that, and especially his first year or two in the comics.
Batman issue 1.
Yes, he kills the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but they retcon that, of course.
Immediately when they realized, we just killed something that's really good that we can keep using.
It didn't take. It wasn't canon.
It never did. Well, if you ever read any of those old detective comics or Batman early issues from the 40s, very interesting of how comics and just that character was presented.
What's even more interesting, read the early newspaper run and the early comics for Superman.
Oh yes.
Oh my God, such a different character.
If I had continued with my comic book aspirations, that'd have been the thing I would love to do, and was a legitimate golden age Superman story with that.
I mean, when he had
the character,
when he had any power under the sun, small Superman clones from his fingers and all that.
No, that's the Silver. That's even pre-Silver Age. This is the golden age. Superman could only leap tall buildings at a single bound.
Yeah, he couldn't fly.
No, he couldn't fly, and he was testy. Right, he was this high-powered. I'll be honest, he was a New Deal type of archetype where he was throwing crooked landlords out of buildings and beating up guys that beat their wives. He beat dudes within an inch of their life because he was very much this champion of the oppressed type.
And then he was sexist and he teases Lois for not figuring out he's Superman.
Who wasn't in the 40s?
That's true.
That was acceptable behavior. But yeah, no, it's a very, very different character than what we think of, than the fatherly Superman that became common in the 50s.
Yeah.
Right. Like he had an edge. Superman had an edge in the 1940s that really kind of disappeared as time went along, which is, again, that's a fascinating character. I would love to see someone do that, if not me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's move on to some happy news. I'm sure JD's happy about this. I know I am. The Fantastic Four reboot for the MCU has found its director.
No, it hasn't, Dave. You misread this.
Yeah.
He exited Fantastic Four.
John Watts left.
Oh, I misread it?
Yes.
Darn.
Yep. Yeah. It was big news. Like he
Well, then, terrible news.
he said he just needs a break.
I mean, I get it. He just made 3 Spider-Man movies back to back to back. So I was shocked that they got him to make this movie to begin with.
That stinks because he would have been the right. He would have had the right tone for it.
He would have had the right tone. But I mean, like, hopefully they could find somebody else like that. I think it is a loss, but I get it, man. I mean, like, as a filmmaker, as a writer, as everything, you don't want to do the same thing over and over again, especially when you just did Spider-Man, right? Like,
so,
yeah.
Who's the? If we're not getting John Watts, who's out there right now? And don't say Spielberg. Who would you like to see tackle Fantastic Four?
John Krasinski, and he could cast him and his wife as Reed and Sue Richards.
So you want him to direct and star in it?
Worked for A Quiet Place. Great movie.
True.
You
think he could find the right tone?
Yeah, I do. I believe in him.
Okay, that's a good pick. John, anyone you could think of?
No, I agree with JD.
You know, I'll throw some out there. Lord and Miller could be interesting because the Fantastic Four does typically have like a whimsical isn't the right word, but I mean like a more sci-fi, like when I say sci-fi, I mean like in the 50s sort of way, where science fiction was a little bit more of a bold medium where like anything could happen. It was the place you chase dreams kind of thing. I can see Lord and Miller bringing that type of flair to the Fantastic Four.
True. Huh.
What do you think, Dave?
I don't know. I like Lord and Taylor now that you've said it. Like
Lord and Miller.
Yeah, Lord and Taylor.
Did it again.
Lord and Taylor a little bit more expensive than
Simon & Schuster, Lord and Taylor. I know. I'm stuck on name brands.
We're off the game today, man. Everything's going awry.
I like Lord and Miller. I'm trying to think. See, of course, I'm going to throw the name out there just because he just did a movie we all really liked. Matt Reeves. Think he'd jump the fence?
Well, hold on that thought. He might be busy.
Yeah, I mean, just because he got the tone so right in that, and I think he loves comics. Like,
it's very clear he loves comics.
Right.
The tone is completely different, right? Like, it
definitely
not be the same. So, could he? I don't know, man. It's an interesting call. It's very interesting.
You know, if they put this back to its strange science roots, like it's discovery. It's what am I trying to say? Like, if they put it back to where the Fantastic Four was just these explorers, right? Yeah, that's if they can find somebody that could engender that kind of feeling in the movie. That fantastic.
Fantastic is a great way to say it, though.
Fantastical.
They are the fantastic.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I think you need someone. I'm depressed that I can't think of someone right off the top of my head who I think could strike that tone just perfectly. You know. Other than John Watts, who I thought was a grace.
It's got to feel like family. It's got to feel fantastical and like that they're scientists who want to go on an adventure. Like that was the feeling they were trying to get. You know, I think Stanley was also trying to go for that pulp feeling. You know, the old movie serials. So
you know who could do that? Stephen Moffat, who
from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Not a director. She's a writer, but I get what you're saying.
I know, but
Russell
the
Davies,
tone,
I think, is there too, because Russell Davies' Who stuff was a little bit more like Moffat could get dark, right? Like Moffat did some dark stuff, whereas Russell, who's now back, Russell T Davies is going to be the showrunner for the next Doctor Who,
because Chris Chibnall did not do a great job.
No, he did not, and everyone hates it. And unfortunately, he had some ideas that were just turned into gimmicks, and it's a shame because Doctor Who is not nearly as fun as it used to be. Hopefully, Russell T Davies can breathe some new life into it. But yeah, that actual tone I think would be perfect. Like those early Doctor Who seasons, right, would be really perfect for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So not Joss Whedon.
No.
3-part harmony, please. No.
Yeah. No. That just Yeah, and the funny thing is, not long ago, before everything came out, you would argue, well, he did Firefly, so that could be a good tone for this. But
Yes, but he pooched. Like Avengers 2 is, we can look back on it as being and then same with the Justice League stuff. So I think he might have either lost the fastball, especially now that what he is, we kind of know better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're wise to his game, you can see in the movies where it's kind of cringy.
Let me throw one at you. That might be a bit of a surprise. I want to make sure I got this right. Yeah. Jeff Fowler.
I don't know that name.
The director of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Huh.
That's not something I would have expected.
So he took a video game property,
Mhm.
stayed true to the heart of the storyline from the games, and made it a fun adventure.
And he's got a background in animation, and he also did the visual effects for the Where the Wild Things Are movie, which I don't think was great, but looked good.
I mean, he surprised me. I watched that movie again one day when I was sick, and you guys had said it was good, and I was really surprised at how much I liked it.
I saw the second one just the other week at the theater with my kid, and he had a blast. I think that I think he knows tone, and his work with special effects is good. It's not easy to do.
He made Jim Carrey fun again.
Yeah.
Something a lot of people have struggled with for well over a decade now.
Yeah.
You know,
he made him funny again, and now he's out of acting, according to him.
That's Jim Carrey. He's very moody, so I'm sure, and he had fun in the Sonic movies. So I'm sure if they did do Sonic 3, which, spoiler alert, they set up for Sonic 3.
Oh, of course.
I'm sure he'd like to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my off the wall call. Actually, I'll say Jeff.
I like that. I like that one.
That's a good one.
I kind of feel like we need to do a poll on social media for this one.
And I'm looking, and he hasn't done a lot. He doesn't Sonic the Hedgehog was his first big movie. It was his first feature-length movie. Actually.
That's his first feature-length movie. Man, he did a good job.
He did do a good job. I think that's something to hang your hat on. And he's made money, right? And he did almost what a lot of people would say was the impossible of doing entertaining video game movies that stay true to the source material and are a lot of fun to watch, right?
Yes, he got people to care about a blue hedgehog.
I heard there were parts of 2 that needed to be revamped. Was it that the wedding thing went on a little too long or whatever?
It's possible, but I mean, at the same time, those things can become studio-esque, and it became a little sitcom hijinky. But I'm not the target audience. The target audience was Andy, and Andy had a great time, right? So if you're making the Fantastic Four, and you're essentially going to be, you have the hand of God leading you through the whole thing. By God, I mean Kevin Feige. He's very good at shepherding directors who don't have a ton of experience. So it sounds like he would be the perfect candidate for something like this.
I think you're right. Well, speaking of the hand of God, Kevin Feige recently came out and said they have planned out the MCU through the next 10 years.
Basically, all geeks are going to become immortal because the longer he pushes that out, the longer we all have to live.
So I'm going to call number one. I think I might call a little bit of BS on this.
What?
Because he kept always saying there's a plan, but at the same time, a lot of people who've been involved with the MCU have come out now and it's well, there was kind of an idea, but we just kind of made things fit together. There was no original major plan to let's say connect these 3 characters, create the Avengers, and blah blah. That was a pie in the sky. Maybe we'll get to do it. Well, luckily everything worked out.
Right. I think that's one of those things. The specifically Avengers, they mentioned at the end of the movie because they wanted to get people talking, right?
Right.
And then they had to figure out how to do it.
Yes.
Right. But I mean,
because everybody screamed when they saw it.
Right. Because it worked. Because again, you can't I always go to this Jeff Johns quote from the first Green Lantern movies. We have Green Lanterns 1 through 4 planned. It's hey, bro, why don't you make 1 really good and then worry about that? And they did that. Their focus was making Iron Man really good, but baiting the hook in case they got a chance to do it. Because they banked everything on Iron Man 1. To the point where they added stuff to Hulk to make it work, to make it connect.
Right.
Right. Because Hulk was a Universal movie. So I believe they do have this stuff planned, but as a guy who plans this stuff, you say, okay, this is where we want to go. how do we get there? And as you're getting there, stuff evolves and stuff changes. Because I mean, it's like no one can lock themselves into, A, B, C, D. It's a roadmap. Like you're driving from Philly to Chicago, and you're going to stay on I-90, I-80, I-90 most of the way, but you can get off the highway a little bit and go, maybe you're in Canton, Ohio. You can go check out the Football Hall of Fame, and then you get back on the road, and it's fine.
Exactly, and there's things that are completely out of your control too. Like, what if another pandemic hits, or
what if you hire Ezra Miller and he beats somebody else up?
Exactly.
Oh God. Yeah.
What if I'm trying to think? What if Tom Holland goes nuts and starts beating up little old ladies?
That kid's a ticking time bomb.
You can tell, yeah.
Like, no, but you never know what's going to happen. I guarantee you, Spider-Man was not part of their plan, but Sony was a failure, and they're like, "Look, can you help us?" And of course, you go, "Yeah," and then you work that into your plans. Because how do you say no to Marvel's best and most known character? You don't. You say, "We're going to put him in our next movie." How? I'll figure that out as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Russo's
there's a lot of
Spider-Man in this.
But then again, it would be nice for them to have there are so many things they could do if they had 10 years of Chekhov's guns planned. I mean, because then just imagine how many, in the next few movies, how many background things you could see happening that would, pay off 10 years later. I mean, it would drive the conspiracy guys nuts.
I will say this.
They enjoy doing.
Oh, yeah, but the other thing is you could literally, sorry, Dave, 1 second.
Yeah.
You could have movies, if they've got it planned well enough, you could have movies where you're watching a Fantastic Four show and see Spider-Man and Deadpool swing by in the background and see that actually happen in the foreground in another movie. Like you could actually, things that we've always wanted to see, you probably see in the background Wolverine fighting Hulk, but we'd never get to see that in the foreground, apparently.
Dave, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the only other issue, and I get what you're saying, John, and that is a cool idea, but then you also have directors who have complained about they had to work something into the movie that was kind of setting up something else, and they feel like it ruined the movie. I mean, there was some guy who directed Avengers 2 who complained about the pool scene with Thor.
The pool scene, he was right about it. As big a piece of crap as Joss Whedon is, he was right about the pool scene, and it because it never got referenced again in another movie, right? Like we all pretty much agreed the pool thing in Thor was really dumb.
But was that because they hadn't planned it out and they had to put something in that movie to start teasing out or setting up?
No, they knew they were going to do Ragnarok, but it just became a very different movie than what they set up in that scene.
But that scene wasn't for Ragnarok, though. That scene was to start the ball rolling for Infinity.
Yeah, I think it was Dark World. I think that was to set up Dark World, actually. I recall. But I mean, that's the thing is when you have we jokingly call Kevin Feige the hand of God, when you have this overwhelming showrunner presence, you don't get auteur films. You don't get a director who's in control. And most directors want the control of the movie, right? And so it's hard to get. It's not impossible because Taika Waititi and Gunn have managed to make their movies in the Marvel system, but I can't say that for everybody, right? Edgar Wright famously left Ant-Man. And we got Peyton Reed, and Peyton Reed was more willing to play ball, and it worked because that movie was good. But I think we were denied of what an Edgar Wright Ant-Man would have been. And I think that's kind of a shame because I'm sure it would have been a lot more visually interesting.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
There's a balance. They do plan these things out. But again, when you're creative and you're making this great plan, the plans change and plans evolve and things take shape that you didn't see, but you still have the end goal and result. The plan for the original wave was we're going to get to Infinite. The plan for the original wave was we're going to get to the Avengers. And then the plan for the next one is we're going to get to the Infinity Gauntlet, which they call Infinity War and all that. We still don't know where we're going with this one. In my opinion, it's probably going we're going to get those X-Men.
Probably. Yeah.
Dave has gas.
Sorry. I muted my mic.
I know. And we're watching you. I'm like, thoughts? No? Oh, you're burping. Oh, okay.
Oh, thanks. Anyway.
So speaking of people that don't have another 10 years ahead of them.
Look at John trying to get in the segues.
I'm horrible at it, I know.
So you also, I didn't realize the other one you included too, John. So both Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow have been canceled.
I'm surprised at the Legends of Tomorrow. I am so not surprised about Batwoman. That thing has just been stumbling along like a zombie for the last three. Ruby Rose did a good job, but depending on who you believe, she was horrible on set or whatever. Or
wasn't a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, but she was good for the character. And after that, the writers, being CW writers, just decided, well, let's do the CW thing and just do whatever the hell we feel like. And that just meandered after that.
Here's my issue with the recasting, how they handled the recasting. For those of us who have grown up looking up the superheroes, like, it's a symbol that means something to us, right? And Batwoman means something to a lot of marginalized people, and she was the first strong lesbian character in DC Comics, right? So she means something to thousands of women, maybe millions of women, that read comic books. And when Ruby Rose left the show and they just recast her, but made it a new character who just picked up the costume and boom, you're Batwoman. Like, you're disrespecting that character. So you're turning off your core audience right there.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. So it's just it was terrible. It was a plane crash and the costume survived and someone just finds it lying on the beach. That is really how they did it.
That's pretty shitty.
Some rando just found the costume and said, "Oh, I'm Batwoman now." Yay!
Here's the thing: is these shows were just started out with Arrow, right? And Arrow had a vision, right?
Oh, it was good too.
And Michael Green, those guys had a vision, and then they brought the Flash in, right, almost right away, and it was fine. And then immediately afterwards, things started kind of going off the rails, and then the shows really became like parodies of things, and they really got CWE, because again, that's the network and that's what it serves. But I mean, I felt like I grew out of what they were very quickly because they weren't meant for me. So, which is fine. Not everything has to be for me. I just didn't watch them. So, I mean, I'm more amazed they lasted as long as they did, quite frankly.
Well, they were good. I mean, Supergirl had some issues. The writing on Supergirl was always the worst. Remember the snapping of the power cord's neck to stop the electricity running?
Oh my God, that was a classic rant on this show.
Yep. But
this was before your time, JD. But yeah.
It's like one of the first episodes on Supergirl. She's learning to use her powers. She comes along across, the power cord gets cut. It's electricity everywhere. She goes over and just takes the power, goes like she's like
breaking the neck of the power cord.
Breaking its
all you're doing is breaking off an end, and there's still electricity shooting out the end that you broke off.
So the writing was kind of the other classic one was freezing lasers, right?
Oh yeah.
Was it Captain Cold freezing the lasers? Yeah, using the cold gun on lasers and freezing them.
I'll never forgive them for taking away Captain Cold and Heatwave from the Flash and never giving us the Rogues. That's a sin. We talk about, I always laugh at cinema sins. It's so stupid. No, taking away the Rogues is what makes does not help the Flash. The Rogues helps what makes the Flash special. And these shows became like widgets, right? Like the CW was just pumping them out. We got to make the widgets. And I don't know, TV shows aren't supposed to last this long either. So, I mean, we can't be surprised. I'm more surprised to last as long as it did, like I said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Legends again was one of the best ones because it was ensemble and they kept switching out characters and all that,
Mm-hmm.
But that also made me wonder too,
but they
was that a choice of the people making the show, or was that the people on the show were like, yeah, I don't want to keep doing this?
Yes, to both.
Right.
That's what it is. People leave. Actors don't want to do the same thing forever in most cases, right? Very few people are Kelsey Grammer playing Fraser Crane for 20 years.
Right. True.
But again, the thing that finally brought it down was, okay, 3 shows. Yeah, you can get that 4 shows, but as long as the writing's good, but the writing was already faltering. Then 7 shows and Batwoman and
part of it
just
too.
It just got.
We're back to Warner, right? Warner's trying to say Discovery's trying to save $3 billion from Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way to do is you cut these shows that are long in the tooth, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last season of Flash. They haven't announced it yet, but
it is. It's supposed to be an abbreviated season.
Okay.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
It might have been in the episode you weren't here.
Oh, okay, because if we did, I'd forgotten we talked about that. So again, last season of Flash, and then let it end because like we had these things, and then they get a chance to kind of be reborn in something else. Maybe on. Okay, let's look at it like this. Warner, they've decided too that TBS and TNT. This wasn't in our show notes. This is from a different show that I do. We talked about this. That Warner will not do any more scripted television shows for TNT and TBS.
I heard about that. What does that mean exactly?
The scripted shows cost money. Like an episode of Snowpiercer is like $1 million plus. Like I think it's like $2-3 million. Like scripted television shows, the episodes are very expensive to produce, and they're in cost cutting mode because Warner had spent poorly. Now they're not going to cut everything, right? You got to put something on, and I imagine the stuff they believe in will still live on HBO Max. Mm-hmm. But as far as just making stuff, like I imagine we're going to see more sports and reality TV things on TBS and TNT.
Which is going to push people right to the streaming because
not really, because live sports is where all the money is in cable anyway. That's where the ratings go. That's what draws viewership.
Yeah, but the reality shows are just crap because
they're cheap.
True, they're cheap, but like the reputation of them has gone to the crapper lately. Because I mean,
lately,
I know, but the amount of information that's come out lately about how scripted all of them are now is just
what I'm saying is. I agree with John that people like us who don't like reality TV will go to the streaming service. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's what's happening anyway.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what I'm saying. Warner's trying to save money. We can do these scripted series for TNT and TBS where they're not going to draw as much, or we can do them for HBO Max where it serves that audience.
Yeah.
Right. The cable audience serves sports. That's what it is. Right, that's like the wrestling stuff. That's the people like that stuff I follow on this is like they're concerned about. Well, where does wrestling fall in this? Because wrestling's super cheap, right?
Yeah,
but it's also not quite live sports. So again, this is what Warner's trying to figure out what they are. Like I said, he's trying to save $3 billion. Right? We axe CNN Plus. We're getting. It hasn't been said, but I guarantee this is all related because the CW is part of that whole conglomerate.
Yep.
Right? They're trying to save some money. Now, what becomes of the CW? I would not be surprised if the CW isn't a thing. That's just me. That's me freewheeling.
Well, its method of storytelling was great in the late 1990s and 2000s. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of remedial now.
I think
like it's not
great.
What.
I don't know if it was ever great.
Well, it was it was never great. But the thing is, like, I think people are really tired of just whiny characters all the time.
Yeah, that's true. The method of what it is, it's melodrama.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is melodrama, but it's also too a matter of how often, like, at what point do you stop putting money into the six of the six networks?
Yeah.
Right. And just go, why are we doing this? And just pulling it all away. Right. Because broadcast is still more expensive than cable.
I think you'll realize where it's going when all of a sudden it's just syndicated crap for a while. Then it'll just be gone.
That's what I'm thinking is going to, because again, CW is what, because that was UPN too. It was the WB and the UPN and they got absorbed and it became the CW, correct? Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, like, we don't need this many television networks, like broadcast television networks. So why, I mean, like, why are you spending money on these things to begin with? Now, again, they're not canceling everything. But it seems like for TBS and TNT, they're going to let stuff finish and then move on.
Game shows.
Don't be surprised if you see a comeback of game shows, because game shows get big every 20 years or so. So I could definitely see TBS or TNT riding away with game shows, because they do stuff like John Cena's got that Wipeout show on TBS.
Yep.
Right. Cody Rhodes had this Go Big show, and it did ratings, but ratings sometimes all you need, So it would not surprise me if you were to see a return of some game shows.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that are returning, it has been officially announced that we are getting The Batman 2 or The Batman Seagull has been greenlit.
I thought they had said they weren't going to do that, but
no, they did not say, they didn't say anything, right?
Yeah.
We had speculated whether they're going to do it because again, this all again goes back to this Warner thing. What is Warner going to do? Warner, they got the new CEO in, and the guy goes, "Oh, this made a lot of money. Do another one." So they are going to spend money. It just got to be on the right things because people are like, "Oh, they're going to stop doing everything." Well, they got to do something. They got to create something, or else they're doing nothing.
Exactly. I think if they came back and said, "Oh, we're not going to do another movie like this," stockholders would get pissed because
they're like, "We're not going to make Batman." What? Yeah. And that would kill the stock. You're right. That would.
They finally got one that works. Yeah, let's do it.
And two, like, if I was anyone that worked for any kind of DC property, I'd be like, okay, I'm done, because it'd be like, it makes it look like you're not going to do anything. So
right, and they're going to, but they're just going to be more selective. Because let's be honest, Warner under the last iteration of the company was spending money stupidly.
Yeah.
No.
Well, what we talked about, like the Justice League thing, they spent a lot of money to finish a movie that they did not really make any money with. And if you're going to create stuff for your app, I get it. It makes sense. That's what Disney's doing. But they were cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Right, because there's no way to quantify. Like, even if they did get a surge in subscribers to go watch that, there is no real way to quantify it.
No. And that's and I think that was the big problem, too, was HBO Max was rushed. And they tried to rush a bunch of stuff when they really didn't have a plan like Disney did. It was like, well, Disney did this. We got to compete with Disney. And, didn't work.
No, not at all. So we shall see. But no, I mean, I can see it. I mean, and of course, the article that I sent, talks about, oh, yeah, they officially greenlit it. And then, of course, there's a bunch of speculation about who's going to be in it. What's the right away, it's like, who's going to be the villain? Who's going to be is the Penguin going to return?
Penguin's getting his own show, right? Yeah. Penguin's getting his own show. Penguin's getting his own show. Yeah.
That's another thing I was trying to say. We're losing the CW shows, but we're creating stuff with the Penguin show and the Gotham Central-esque show, right? Or did that become the Penguin?
No, there were two. There was going to be a Gotham-esque show, which
and then the Peacemaker show. We have another season of Peacemaker coming.
Yes.
So there's
because that's stuff that has eyeballs on it.
Yes. And the CW things of, they're not, I think, what this fan base, the people who listen to this show, have really been drawn to anymore. And it's fine. Stuff comes, stuff goes. You do a new iteration of something. But it's interesting. I think Warner is the most interesting story of the next 10 to 12 months. I really do.
No, as in how long they'll last, or
no, they're gonna last. It's Warner Brothers, man. They've been around forever. They're one of the biggest conglomerates in the world. But I mean, when AT&T said, "Okay, we're done with this," and sold it off, what becomes of it? How does it evolve? What happens to DC Comics? What happens to the film division? What happens to HBO Max? These questions are still being answered, and every week we talk about it.
AT&T was never a good fit to begin with, though. They can't even manage the phones, let alone movies. I mean,
it makes me wonder though. Was it AT&T mismanaging Warner Brothers, who then mismanaged their money, or they just gave money to Warner Brothers and they kept mismanaging it?
Probably all of the above.
It could be all of the above. I mean, the story of Warner for a long time has been mismanagement, right? It's not just this iteration of it. Warner is very successful, but they make a lot of really bad decisions, and it goes back decades, right? I look back at the AOL when they got absorbed at the time, right? Time Warner.
Oh my God, that's right.
And they absorbed Turner, and then they were purchased by AOL. It was a disaster, right? The AOL Time Warner merger was one of the all-time great business deals of all time. It killed a lot, right? And it's people oh, DC can't figure out. I mean, DC is such a pimple on the butt of Warner. It's not even funny. But they just get to play victim to all these crazy things that happens to Warner. I mean, this has been the case for 30 some years.
I also think it's another way to look at this too, is they got, I don't know, lucky. I guess luck is a good way to put it, by getting the rights for the Harry Potter books and then doing the movies right. Yeah. That sustained them for a really long time. But that's done now, and now they're doing these Fantastic Beast things, but
they died. The last movie I've heard wasn't that great.
And that's what I'm saying. Even the hardcore fans of the books were about it. They liked the first one, but then it was kind of I'm done with it. I don't need this story. It's give me a one-off and fine, but trying to make it a thing like the Harry Potter movies is
it's a money grab, right? Yeah. It feels like a money grab, and J.K. Rowling has done a lot to hurt her perception.
Yes, I was about to say.
She's taken herself down, where a lot of her hardcore fans have turned on her. So, I mean, like,
yeah, but I mean, she's not even involved with these. Like, other than what?
But they're hers. Like, they're her. Like, it's her property. And like I said, like, when you are associated with the Harry, like, it's her creation. It's her money. She's getting a fat check for these. And like you said, the Harry Potter thing was big for Warner. Harry Potter and like Batman. That was what kept Warner like afloat for a long, long time. And there's only so many. You're not going to remake the Harry Potter movies,
right?
I mean, maybe they'll try someday, but I mean, I think it's too soon to go back and remake all those things now.
I wouldn't put it past the.
Neither would I. But I would advise them not to. Right? I mean, but you're right. Like they got luck. They got very lucky. It was shrewd business. That's how Diane Nelson got in charge of all this stuff. Right? Remember when Diane Nelson was heading up the DC Comics division? Not anymore. She was the manager of Harry Potter. She was the one who pushed all that stuff. Right? That's how she moved up in the Warner chain of command.
Right.
You know, you're an executive. It's just a moment. The clock is just ticking to when you get fired.
It feels that way.
No, well, yeah. You get this big ass promotion, and they're like, "Congratulations."
Yeah, but that's
it's not a video show. I'm tapping on my watch.
Yeah, but that's okay, because then you get the golden parachute, and you could take another year to find another place, but you're probably sitting on 20 million as your severance pay. So
and that's part of the problem too, is they get these golden parachutes worked in, and the new boss comes in and goes, "We're spending how much on failures?"
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, but then he's got that worked into his contract too. So
he's not a fool.
Right, exactly.
That's the way it goes. Like, but again, like that's everyone, because everyone who's in the job is like, well, I'm not going to make the mistakes my boss made. It's like the reign of terror. Well, I'm not going to screw up like that guy. Next thing you know, off with your head.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They do need a hit though. They do need another hit. And they've been hurting. Yeah. And it didn't help that during the pandemic, they had movies that could have made money that did not. And they tried to support their streaming app. I think Dune would have made a killing at the box office.
No, exactly. That's the thing too. And then, this whole like putting it directly to streaming, which means they probably had to pay off people in the movies so they didn't get upset. Right. Because we did talk about that, where like no one in the Warner movies complained, but in the Disney movies, it was like, hey, this should have been, because they just did it. So
people in Warner complained. There was a lot. Denis Villeneuve complained big time about Dune. Big time. I thought there was.
Oh, that's true. He did say that. Yeah.
There was and the Suicide Squad too. Gunn complained. Like there was far more griping on the Warner side, I felt, but there was some on the Disney side too. Because it's not. I mean, like the pandemic sucked. It did seem like Disney had systems in place to keep them sustained, whereas it seemed like Warner, who was already rushing into this before the bottom fell out, did not, and that's really what did them in.
Yeah.
Pandemic sucked, man.
Yeah,
for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So. Yep. All right.
Done yet.
Meanwhile, it didn't make the show notes, but I'll say it. Bad Bunny, Latin American pop station superstar, is going to play El Muerto in the next Spider-Man villain movie. That's right, El Muerto, who appeared in 2 editions of Peter David's Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man,
is going to appear what?
In a movie called El Muerto, about a evil professional wrestler who was an enemy of Spider-Man in 2 issues of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the 3rd rung Spider-Man book from the aughts.
And they're doing a movie
with Bad Bunny, international Latin American superstar.
What the?
Part of me doesn't feel like that movie's going to get made.
I'm surprised. I'm shocked this Craven movie's getting made. Yet here we are. I can't believe Morbius is a thing.
Yeah, well, neither can the people that made it now.
What's the problem? I mean, that's the thing. Sony's doing it too. Sony's like, what is Spider tangential? What can we do? And
without Spider-Man, we have to do everything Spider-Man, but without Spider-Man.
Worked with Venom. That's the problem. The Venom movie worked.
But that's, I think you get lucky, and then you just.
I know. Like, hopefully they're learning their lesson from Morbius, but here comes Craven. There's one good Craven story. One, when he died.
So at least there's only going to be one of those movies then, right?
Of course not. Spider-Man's not in it. I mean, like the Sony people are far, like we get on Warner. The Sony people are far more desperate, but it doesn't seem like they're quite as stretched as Warner gets themselves.
Right. This is true. Yeah. I mean, because Sony's got more going for it than Warner Brothers does.
Yes, but I mean, there's also no Sony Like Sony they tried to make PlayStation. Remember the PlayStation Network was going to be a thing, and that really didn't happen. And they've been very hesitant to like do their own streaming service. They've kind of been like, we'll just sit back here.
Yeah. There's one other thing now that you're saying it.
Bad Bunny coming soon in El Muerto.
I just don't understand.
Who's that actor who the British actor who played Elton John in the biopic?
Oh yeah. Geez, what's his name? He's got a funny name. Hang tight. I'll pull up IMDb.
The rumor going around now is that he's in talks, and he's denied it. He's in talks to play Wolverine in the MCU.
What was the Elton John movie called?
I don't remember. He was also in the Kingsman, right? He was the main guy in the Kingsman.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Rocket Man. It's called.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Taron Egerton.
There you go. Yes, and I don't know. I don't see it, and
As
he's
Wolverine,
denied it.
I hope that's just a rumor.
He's denied it, though he has said he would be excited to do it. But again, there were a bunch of actors who were rumored and denied it and ended up being in the part.
Well, that's the
Paul
problem.
Rudd.
Is when you have it, like you can't win, right? If you say no, I'm not in it, like yep, you're in it. Of course, you're like you can't win. You know?
No. So
I do not see that at all. Like I mean,
other than he's short.
You kind of got what's his face, big strong man, the outgoing Wolverine. Yeah, Hugh Jackman. You kind of got that. If you watched him in stuff before, you could see him playing it. But this guy,
I don't know. We do this a lot.
Yeah, I know.
People were like that too with Heath Ledger as the Joker, and that wound up being like an epic performance. So I mean, whatever. Maybe I'm not seeing it personally, but I'm of the mind that especially if we're bringing especially if we don't know for sure, but we heard Patrick Stewart's voice. We'll talk about it next week. Patrick Stewart's voice in the new Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
That in my mind that means Hugh Jackman's still on the table.
Yeah, because he's from at least two different timelines of that.
Right, and
already.
they brought in. They did that on purpose, right? When they brought in the other Scarlet Witch or the other Quicksilver on the Scarlet Witch show.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
that stuff is teasing, the Fox universe. So, and we know the Deadpool movie is going to happen eventually. So this stuff is still on the table in my mind.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And but like we've said too with Deadpool, you can just bring him in. You don't need to explain.
Yeah, you don't need to set up anything with Deadpool. But like again, this stuff is on the table with Deadpool.
All right, so that's all the news we've got. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with something else.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, we're back, boys and girls, and we're gonna wrap up this week with an interview. While I was at the Fan Expo Philadelphia, I met Jeffrey Gritman and Kristen Kist. They are the creators of Prison Dad. It's a book series that it doesn't compete with you at all, JD.
There's no competitors. There are no competitors.
It's a comedy sci-fi series about a guy who fathered a lot of illegitimate children, and they all have short little adventures. So it's a book. Each book is a bunch of short stories in it, and like they were just like, I walked up to the table and Jeffrey was there, and we were just talking, and he was a really nice guy and got along, and like the book was the concept was just so funny. I'm like, I want to do an interview, so talk to him. So without any further ado, here are the creators of Prison Dad.
All right, everyone. Still here at the great, I was about to say the Great Philly Comic Con, but no, that's not even around anymore.
That's where we met the first time.
We're here at Fan Expo Philly 2022 with Jeffrey Gritman and Kristen Kist.
Hello.
Hello. I am so bad with names.
It's not a problem. It's like
all right, Steve. I get you.
And you guys are the creative team behind Prison Dad.
That's right.
That's right.
So, why don't you give our listeners the elevator pitch for Prison Dad?
Sure. So, Prison Dad is a crazy set of stories about our, ne'er-do-well hero, Les Gum. He's in and out of jail, and he has so many illegitimate children that it's completely ridiculous. But
statistically impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you'll find out why later in the series. But he and his friends go on all kinds of fun adventures. So it's a sci-fi comedy series. Each book is basically like a season of a TV series.
Okay.
And each chapter is basically a short story. that tells about a different adventure that Les and his friends go through. So we've had them abducted by aliens, they get drunk with Sasquatch, they've body swapped, they've time traveled, anything that we can think of or that we've seen in movies that we're like, that would be cool, let's do this to Les. That's what happens to Les. It's great.
And something that we people like know us for, and they'll come up to us at cons, is we wrote a story together. Each book has like 10 stories, 5 she writes, 5 I write.
Right.
And what we wrote together was the concept. After watching like Sharknado 2 or 3, I was like, okay, what do our characters hate? Oh, they hate squirrels. I'm like, Squirrel Twister, Squirrelicane. So Squirrelicane was born as a hurricane of squirrels that attacks a trailer park. And, our heroes aren't exactly the gun-wielding kind of people. So what do they have to defend themselves from these rabid mutant squirrels that attack? And if you see, we sell the mutant squirrels. And so there's Squirrelicane 1, there's Squirrelicane 2, and there's Squirrelicane 3. Dawn of the Squirrels. Yeah, the Squirrel Queen, based off of our...
One, the squirrels actually get to wear tiny little suits of armor, which I absolutely loved.
So they're arming themselves like orcs, like outside of the tower in Isengard.
Where's the genesis of an idea like this come from?
Sure. So Jeff and I we've been friends forever, and we were hanging out in bars, like drinking beers, and we were like, what if there was this guy, and, every episode of the show, he's just like this hot mess, and he's in jail, and every episode he has a different child that's like just shows up and asks for advice, and they're all his. So that's kind of where it started off. And then our friends would always be like, tell us a Prison Dad story. And we just started making stuff up and being like, how about this? And so then we were sitting around, hanging out. And we just were like, let's start writing these stories down.
It was when you moved.
Yeah.
It all started when you moved close to where I live. Yeah. We lived at the time. And we were like, seriously, like 3 blocks apart. And we were hanging out all the time.
Yeah. And we both had laptops. So I was taking like writing classes. I'm an English major. And I really missed it. So he was like, let's write these stories down together. And so we did. And like, we got to the point where we had a whole bunch and we really wanted to pitch it as a TV show. But like my uncle, John, he had written some films and I knew like when he sold them, they completely changed what his story was. So I was like, that's cool, but we should put them in like book form first so that we can get them copyrighted and we can like show people what we thought. And then if we ever sell them as TV shows, like people can do whatever. But
so we're 100% self-published.
Yes.
Through Amazon. So what we do is we write, like I said, we each write 5 stories. Kristen is an amazing editor. She takes my stories and just spins them into gold. Well, okay.
We're both really funny. I'm not taking all the credit.
And then I have graphics background. So I do the silly artwork and the formatting. I think you formatted the first book, and then I copied that formatting for the next 6.
Because when you self-publish, you have to, like, follow a certain format, which we learned about. Anyway, but it's really cool. I mean, I'm so grateful that there's this whole self-publishing movement now, because we've gotten to sell hundreds of books, which is amazing. Like, that wouldn't have happened in the 70s.
No, I mean, actually, one of the co-hosts on the show is an author, and he self-publishes through Amazon. And, he's tried to... He actually started out doing comics.
Oh,
but, it was difficult to find artists that he could work with and stuff. So he's like, I've always loved writing. I'm just going to write books. He's like, it's so great now. Like, you can just put it, I mean, he has an editor that he works with, but still.
Right.
Yeah, just put them out on Amazon.
No, but I mean, that's exactly right. Like, because even if you do get published by, like, a publishing house, most of the time you have to do your own publicity anyway.
Right, exactly.
So it's more just getting it out there, and then, we do our own sales and publicity and, advertising, and it's fun. It's great.
We don't do a lot, we do more of the in-person sales than having, the online sales, which is really weird in this day and age. But the name might be a hard sell, but when we come to cons, people know us, and they'll buy a book. And then the next year, they'll buy 2 books. And then the next year, we'll do the same one. They'll come by, and they'll buy the rest of the books. And this keeps happening. Like, oh, I finished that so long ago, and I keep meaning to get the other one. Let me buy all of them.
Right.
And that's what happens. We did a reading one year about a story at the end of Volume 6.
Right.
It was the one we wrote together. It's called Cat. And it's about, it's based off of, I can't remember the name of the movie. Yeah, it had Xander in it. But it's a dimensional swapping movie where they're having a dinner party and the lights go out and they keep traveling
in a different dimension. Yeah. So then we did that, but we had like all these different dimensions where like silly sitcom characters like Alf show up.
Okay.
And they have to like interact with them, and we had so much fun writing it. But yeah, we read it at a con, and then all these people came up and bought the books after.
So we asked for a time that we weren't sure if someone could cover our table.
Right.
So we asked for a time that when the dealer room was closed, they gave us 10:30 at night, which
that's the best time at a con.
We thought it was gonna suck, but like people did show up and they were like laughing because they'd been drinking. So that's like that's a perfect storm for our stories.
Yeah.
Like if you had a couple cocktails or you smoked something and you sit down and start reading our stories, like you're gonna be laughing and you're gonna have fun.
Do you know how many books we sold for 3 people listening to our story? 18.
Wow.
So it was surreal that happened. And then they told their friends and stuff like that. They're like, "Oh, when did you do a reading?" Because like when we read all 3 Squirrel Crane story, or we read the first 2 Squirrel Crane stories, the room was filled because it was like people sitting around listening to stories, and it was amazing.
So speaking of cons, right? So this is the first convention in 2 years in Philadelphia, right? This is because of the pandemic.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you guys feel the convention? Like, now they started at the end of last year, but they were all limited capacity. This is the first one that I've been to where there's no limits, no masks, no vaccine mandates, not everyone's just here. How do you feel the convention is?
I love it. I love being at conventions because I love the energy. I love the excitement. It's so much fun to meet young people who are excited about things and people our age who like we can connect with on like pop culture references and the people are doing phenomenal cosplay. Somebody's here is like the salamander woman from Mando.
Yes, I saw that.
And she has like the whole tank on her back with baby. Like it's incredible. People are really going. Yeah.
Oh,
when I was waiting in the food line. But it's incredible just to be here to talk about our books again. I've really missed it. I missed hanging out with this dude and selling our books. And I love the energy of these types of events because I'm a big nerd and I love being a nerd and it's so much fun.
I don't know how to follow that up because that was an amazing breakdown. So, it is, you're right. The energy, the people that'll come by, the people will flag down, come talk to us. And, it's amazing meeting people. The costumes are just outstanding. And this is actually, I know I just have a Jedi robe on. This is the first time I've ever dressed up. For a con in like 10 years, I don't know how long, 7 years of doing this, however long we've been doing it. It's not a whole lot of repeat costumes. But the problem with having the table though is that I want to look at everything and I can't. It's impossible. So, I don't know how to do it, but we're going to figure it out. But I have nothing to disagree with what Kristen said. She really summed everything up.
So, along those lines too, of being back, what did you guys do during the pandemic to like keep going and keep your spirits up and like, because I know like as a creative person when you can't get out to meet your fans and do stuff, sometimes it's hard to keep going.
Yeah, we took a step back. We took a break. Unfortunately, my father is really sick and he passed away in June. So
sorry.
Thank you. I was actually living with him and my mom and my sister and her kids and husband for a while in Florida, just to spend time with him. So I wasn't really writing during that time, but I was watching a ton of movies and reading. So now I'm like really excited to get back to writing again. And I was grateful to have that time with my dad. So it was weird, but I'm trying to find like the silver lining around the pandemic. And we played a lot of games online. Jeff and I and our friends on Friday nights, we would always play like Jackbox games.
Cards Against Humanity.
Cards. And like, so there was a lot of creativity there because we played like a t-shirt game, where we draw and then you put like little slogans.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of kept like my creativity going.
Right.
But I definitely missed it, and I missed like the energy of being around people and sharing our stories. Yeah, it's fun.
My son is very very creative when it comes to storytelling, and he has an abundance of Legos.
He is. I love that kid.
The stories he comes up with are just amazing. And the characters that he creates. So, he's got the Marvel, he's got the Star Wars, but he likes to play with the Lego, themed sci-fi series. They don't make too many sci-fi ones anymore because they're all the Star Wars ones, but, like the Ultra Agents of the Galaxy Squad and those things, like, watching him come up with these stories and telling me about it, be like, Dad, this is what we're going to do after work. Like, these guys are trapped on the mountain. The mountain's his bed. And they can't get off the mountain until they, destroy the vortex or whatever, like, And it's just so amazing to sit and listen to his storytelling. So that was one thing. But I wrote a little bit. It's incredibly difficult to write without Kristen. I wrote a Prison Dad story. I worked on some artwork for the new book. Okay. We came up with, more so you came up with, a book, like a novel, like a sci-fi novel series, which wasn't initially silly. And then I wrote a lot of it, which I've yet to read you. I wrote 3 or 4 chapters, and it just ended up being funny, but still, like, not like hard sci-fi. Right. So that's in the works. So that was a lot of fun. And it was like, I would write a chapter and then I'd like go to bed and I'd almost like be in that state between sleep and dream, or, not asleep. And the next chapter would just come to me. One time I got up in the middle of the night and like went down there and made some like outline notes and stuff. And, the next day when I turned my work computer on, I'm like, what is this? The story fairy came and granted my wishes.
Can't beat the story fairy.
But the games are great. My wife and I play games. We watch a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows. We find it's best, what works for us is to pick one show at a time when it's all over. Yeah. With the exception maybe on Disney Plus, because come on, who can wait? So, we keep up with that. I am constantly reading, geeky news articles. My phone is everybody's phone is a plethora of just so many like things you want to read. And then the last 5 months, I set on playing every Metroid game ever made. So I'm on the last one I wanted to play right now. So it's kind of cool.
So you guys said you're self-published. You've been working together for a long time. What kind of advice do you give to people who want to start writing?
So I think the hardest thing is to actually sit down and do it. And so, Jeff was awesome because in the beginning, I'm more of an ideas person that I get in my head, and then it's really hard for me to sit down and execute. But he made me sit down and do it, and when I do get into it, I really love it, and I'm really proud of all the work that we've done. But yeah, it's really just, part of it is your confidence. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to know that you're doing this for yourself. Right. And if other people like it, that's great. But it's really about you sitting down and getting your vision out there. You can't judge yourself when you're writing. You just have to flow with it. And then you go back and edit, and you can clean stuff up and change things. You can have other people read it and give you advice, but don't take other people too seriously. You got to believe in yourself. I think that and sitting down and doing it are the hardest parts of writing. But yeah, just stick with it. If you believe in yourself enough, somebody else is going to enjoy your work. And we've found so many people that did, and that's been incredible. Yeah.
What was the question again?
Advice to people who want to start writing.
What really worked for us was routine and support. Support my wife. It used to be 3 o'clock on Sundays. I left. I got out of parenting. I go over to Kristen's and we'd write a little bit. We'd probably write about 2 hours, and then we'd eat dinner, and we'd always have something on, something we loved. Usually stuff we've seen before. It's incredibly it's very difficult to write if it's something that is new to you, because you're like, oh, wait a minute. And we would it was just routine really worked for us. And then we started the podcast, which we don't have anymore, which we don't need to plug on your podcast to take your listeners away. And we would come over and we'd review the podcast material first. We'd record it. We'd record the podcast. And then I'd go edit it and upload it. And, that's what we do. And then we'd eat dinner together, and talk about writing, and then we go write. And it was the routine worked. And then what happened during the pandemic was I would say to my wife, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go, tonight, kid goes to bed, I'm going down there and write for 2-3 hours. It was an hour of internet browsing.
I didn't do any of that because I was living with my mom, my dad, my sister, and her kids and her husband. So I was either watching my niece and nephew or spending time with my dad. So I really got behind. But I do have one story that we finished before the pandemic, and I've been working on a second story about a siren that lives in the Schuylkill, which is going to be really great. I'm so excited for that one. I got to sit down and finish it, though.
There's a lot of great stuff in the new book. Kristen has a spoof on the horror classic The Stuff. We have throughout the book, starting in book 2, there's been this cult that's been kind of following Les around. So in the new book, you actually get to meet the cult members and see what they're doing and how obsessed they are with Prison Dad. There is a squirrel octopus hybrid monster living beneath the trailer park that comes out and they have to destroy. And that was all that. that was like after the Chernobyl miniseries was on, and it was like the one character was obsessed with it, and like no one else watched it, and they kept calling him like a nerd for like watching it.
Like we're doing a whole like B movies thing with this.
Yeah, the new book is all B movies. Yeah.
All right. So the question we normally like to wrap up on is, how do you measure success?
Oh. I think success is just feeling like you had a dream and you found a way to realize it. I don't think it has anything to do... I mean, it's nice if you make a lot of money, but to me, it's just like, I feel successful when I've had a dream and I make it realized in some way. Because happiness is a state of mind. It's not about like money or awards and things like that. So I consider us a successful writing team because we finished 7 books, so we're working on an 8th. And so to me, that's success, and I'm having fun. So
I think it's just having fun. Success to me is having fun. Like, I love it when people come up to cons and they start talking about like, oh, I read this story and I love this, and like, hearing from friends, you're like, oh, I just finished this one, because books are incredibly difficult to sell. Nobody wants to read. Or people like to collect them and put them on their shelves and not read them. Yes. So to sell a book and to have someone read your book and talk to you about your book is like so rare when you're not, Stephen King or, someone who does it for a living.
I'm going to keep mine in the bathroom.
Yeah, keep it in the bathroom.
Spot.
Keep it in the bathroom and feed your people lots of foods.
Beans.
Yeah, beans. keep them in the bathroom.
It's great because they're short stories, so you're hanging out for a little bit. Might as well read one.
So where can people find you guys online?
PrisonDad.com.
And we're on Amazon. All of our books are on Amazon for Kindle and print.
PrisonDad.com was something we've had forever, but just before the pandemic hit, I spent like weeks redesigning the site. It's got what we call the Lessopedia. It is an encyclopedia of every character they need to know, every concept that might be brought up. We have
brands that we made up, like Snack Smart.
He's like our Wawa.
Yeah, Lager, brand Lager.
O'Shaughnessy's Hot Mess Cinnamon Whiskey.
Yep.
Hot Mess Cinnamon Whiskey is a fun time, and it's our favorite drink of our characters. Locations and things that, will come up that, if it's been a little bit, it's a good refresher. You got links to all the books. You got, videos of us reading stories, and you got links to our podcast and all sorts of other media interviews with us, where we'll put this interview on and we'll slap it on there too. So.
All right. And again, you sold me on sex and cursing, so...
Yeah, sex and cursing.
Thank you so much.
That's the next person who walks by and be like, hey, you like sex and cursing? Thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there you go. Another one in the books. So let's wrap this up with either, again, dealer's choice as usual, recommendation, or what did you learn on the podcast this week? And we'll start with John, because he looks like he has something to say.
Oh, no, I don't have really anything to say. I mean, what did I learn on the podcast? Yeah, I tend not to learn anything anymore because I'm old. Yeah, don't take any rumors for granted. I guess. The recommendations, I would say, I have to go back to, well, first off, Moon Knight, I think is more, I don't know. I see a lot of hate for Moon Knight. I don't know why. Like, I was reading some, there's a review site, Tom's Hardware, and the guy there, the reviewer there, wrote something about, yeah, when I saw Moon Knight episode 4, that was the nail in the coffin. I'm like, I don't see it. I still think that Moon Knight is kind of a fun show. If you don't have burnout, it's I don't know. I think it's worth watching. I can't wait to see what the last episode brings. So I would say that. And for anime, Spy X Family is probably one of the best things. It's like brain candy. If you want a show that's going to make you laugh out loud and be really cool, you check out that anime. It's called Spy X Family. Yeah, that's it.
The only thing I would say about the Moon Knight criticism is that oh, sorry. No, I'm
nothing
not
to sneeze
on,
at, dude.
No. The one thing I see about people complaining is that though there's not enough Moon Knight in the show, but like, I don't know, I think people forget that like it's about driving character and building character, and especially when you get a long format, like you're getting 6 hours to tell this story. you're building character. So like
6 hour, was it 6 hours and only like what 30 million per episode? But I don't
like you're not gonna get 6 hours of a guy running around in a costume fighting demons. Like
a CGI costume too.
Yeah, like you're gonna get tired of that after a half hour, and then you're like, okay, what's next? Like people don't get that. Like you've got to have character, you've got to have a story. You know, I mean, there's people who sit there and say they hated the Batman, and it's like, really? Did you see the same movie I did?
There are people that hate it. I don't get it. There are people.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
How about you, JD?
I watched the first 3 episodes of Samurai Rabbit.
Oh, I heard that was on. Yeah,
Yes.
how was it?
I enjoyed it. It's not what I thought. I thought it was going to be a straight adaptation of Usagi Yojimbo. It is not. It is his descendant, Neo Edo. And it's about a kid who worships his ancestor, Miyamoto Usagi. And it's fun so far. I quite enjoy it.
Okay.
That's on Netflix, right?
Netflix, yeah, it's on Netflix. So if you're familiar with Usagi Yojimbo, most people, the Stan Saska, I can't remember his last name, the long-running comic series about a wandering rabbit samurai who appeared in some Ninja Turtle stuff, both the original series and the 2012 series. So if you are familiar with Usagi Yojimbo from there, or Miyamoto Usagi, as the character is really known, you should know. You should have fun. It's a fun show. It's a fun show. I quite enjoy it so far.
I'm going to have to put that on my list because, yeah, that was something I was interested in. But now you got me.
Yeah, that's what I thought you might like it. I was entertained. Like I said, I get to see the kids' shows sometimes.
I learned that JD has a hairy ass. I think that's the most important lesson to take from this episode.
That you just no.
No, I would not care to see your hairy ass, JD. Sorry. Leave that for your wife.
Hair, she don't like that either. But she understands that shaving a butt is just not realistic. Very hairless from the waist up. From the waist down, quite fuzzy. Quite fuzzy. I also have a Kickstarter that's, in time you listen to this show, 2 days to close for final 48 hours. The Wolfstone Saga. I was on Take a Knee, and he's like, give me the elevator pitch. And believe it or not, I never did the elevator pitch before, so I couldn't think about it. Katniss Everdeen in the Marvel Universe. Really like that one. And I got a brand thing too, is I write books to people who like comics.
Oh,
I like that one. That's going on the website. So yes, come and contribute to the Kickstarter. Final. I can kill you. I have another person I have to kill. Someone else jumped on board.
All right.
Still
awesome.
plenty of people worth killing.
Come on, everybody. I've done it twice already. Jump
3 times.
Jump on. It's fun.
I recommend.
I'm waiting for the day someone goes, you kill a guy named John O'Grady in every book you write. I'm going to go, yes.
You must really hate him. What did he do?
Well, I recommend that you head over to superheroespeak.com where you can find the podcast every week. Links to our social media at the top of the page and comic book reviews by our good friend D Square. And make sure you go this weekend and see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, because of course that's what we'll be talking about next week on the podcast.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
So until then, as always, thanks for listening, and don't let your cape be caught in the door. Have a good week.